Here we go. The Walking Dead, The Ones Who Live, Episode 2. The last episode ended insane. The last episode, in general, was just insane. And I am blown away by what kind of story we are getting now. Like, I'm just so excited to see what we're going to get here with Rick Grimes and Michonne. I'm so excited to see Rick back. So, this episode is Michonne's story. So, the pacing of this show is going differently than I thought it would. And I'll kind of get back on that at the end of this review. But this episode is pretty fast-paced, just like the last episode. So, we got a walker here that's kind of on fire through a big horde of walkers. Then we cut to a slide saying 6 years after the bridge. Now, this is something I think we got last week too. It's the same kind of title card of like, okay, we are establishing that we are 6 years after Rick blew up the bridge. And now this is where we are at in the storyline. So, here is Michonne, and she is talking to this group that she's seen. And we saw this group when she left The Walking Dead. She went off and she helped these two people, this one couple, and she helped them out. And then she saw this big group of people that were kind of off in the distance, and it was another whole group, just kind of traveling with a bunch of horses and wagons and stuff. And we don't really know what that was about. Well, we get a few flashbacks of what happened with Michonne. Obviously, that last episode when she found the stuff that belonged to Rick. And it was like that boat that was like had a location, the last location it was at. And now this is the area that she's trying to get to figure out where Rick is. So we got some flashbacks. And then we got cut to this scene. Michonne mentioning that she's lost someone and that she needs to go find him. And this is kind of like the leader, I guess, of that group that she ended up seeing. So she did end up bringing that couple to that group. She's back now, and she is kind of traveling with them for the moment because she saved them. So she's letting them know what's going on. She's just letting them know, really, like, I would like to have a horse. You got a lot of horses around here. Maybe I could take a horse, and I can be off on my way to go find my person that I'm trying to find, which is Rick. So here we go. We got the couple here that we got seen saved at the end of Michonne's run on The Walking Dead. This is the couple that she saved. It's kind of cool that we're kind of tying it into them. I don't know how important they were ever really meant to be, but now that we're telling the story with Michonne and Rick, it is kind of cool to see them again, just to tie it all in real well. So it's nice to see them again. Not big characters, but I just like the tying in with the ending of their both their stories on The Walking Dead now to this. So we do get to see the new character of Nat, and he's a lot more involved and witty, and just he feels more like a leader type of character than I imagine he would. And I kind of like his character. I really do. So he's a brand new character, obviously, and this is the big character that Michonne is going to be interacting with and basically having help her out throughout this episode. So we do get a shot here of that big group traveling on the road, a bunch of different cars, wagons, horses, whatever, and they're just traveling. And I don't really know where they're going necessarily, but that leader of the group, at least that Michonne was talking to, is the sister of the lady she saved. So they're like related in that way. We got a shot of Michonne basically trying to contact Judith again because she was always in radio contact with Judith to kind of maybe let her know where she is. And it seems like that she's kind of out of contact at this point. She cannot reach Judith. But we do get to see her trying to contact Judith. And then we get to see Nat basically trying to convince Michonne, stick around just a little longer. We like having you around. So I like this character. I think he's kind of cool. We cut to Michonne a little later starting to leave. So she gets a horse. Nat lets us get a horse. She's about to leave and head off to go find Rick and basically leave that big group behind. But before that, Nat says goodbye. The couple that she saves says goodbye, and then they ride off on their horse. So we got that scene of Michonne from the trailers and from the end of the Walking Dead main series, where we had Michonne and Rick in that final sequence of saying the ones who live. That whole big tease at the end of this is the story we're going to get. This is what's going to be told. Now we are here. We are finally seeing what's going on with Michonne. So she's running towards this massive horde of walkers, and she's shooting that weapon into the horde of walkers that we've seen in the trailers, and now that we have seen at the end of the last episode that basically penetrated the helicopter and blew up Okafor and took down Rick's helicopter. So it's all starting to tie together a little bit more here, but we're finally getting to find out what's happening with Michonne, because I've mentioned before in the trailers and stuff that I can't tell exactly where her storyline is. It seems to be all over the place, and I can't pinpoint exactly where she is at certain points, and now it's kind of clear to me after this episode. So the walker that was on fire, it kind of like explodes, it blew up, it knocked her off of her horse, and she's kind of like stunned and whatever. And after that, you think things are going to go wrong for Michonne, but then she notices that there are 2 explosions on either side of the big field that she is in. And it's like this big purple flame of different types of chemicals. And she starts to see the walkers split up into 2. So it splits off and literally reveals a path forward through the walkers. I don't know how realistic that would really be in this world, but it worked for the moment, I suppose. So I was kind of cool. That was kind of cool to see. But the ones who actually ended up lighting those 2 big explosions to separate the walkers was Nat and that couple that Michonne saved. So there's also a few other people, random characters, just throwaway characters that joined along, but they kind of wanted to split off from that big group. They decided that they've always kind of wanted to split off and leave, find their own way almost, because they're kind of sick and tired of being part of that massive group and listening to her sister and the leader and stuff. So they split off and they want to join Michonne in her search for Rick. I think that's cool to see that. And I do like Nat, so I'm glad we're seeing more of Nat. We got some campfire scenes with Nat and Michonne. We get to learn a little bit of the story with the woman in the couple. I don't remember their names, but the woman in that couple, she mentions her story and why they were even out there to begin with when Michonne found them. So she does mention that. Then we cut the next day, I would assume the next day or a few days later, I'm not exactly sure, but she's with her little group now that's split off from the big one. You got Nat with her, and you got that couple there on the trailer. But as they're going through this little town, I don't know where they are exactly, but they're obviously nearing closer, probably to somewhere that the CRM does not want them to get. That's my assumption. As they're going through this town, they literally see a freaking helicopter flying above them. And to them, like, you got to realize, to them, they got to realize this is insane. Like, why are we seeing a helicopter? It's the same scenario as if you would see the helicopter in, The Walking Dead, like season 8 when Rick saw it. Like, this is weird. This shouldn't be happening. There's no more helicopters flying around. But they see a helicopter. Obviously, this is the Civic Republic. And you don't really understand what's going on at first. But then the helicopter literally turns around and blasts chlorine gas. So the helicopter is specifically targeting them. I don't know why. Maybe it's just because they don't want people to get close to them or something like that. But they are going out and basically wiping people out. And we do learn a little bit more of that a little later of what type of groups go out and do that with the CRM. But you see that shot of Michonne yelling scatter, and then the chlorine gas basically shoots down and takes over the little town that they're in. We got a few scenes of Michonne running through the town, face covered up, trying to get out, basically get to a safe place and take out a bunch of freshly dead walkers, because everyone in that group dies except for, the few main characters that we've met in this episode. A little convenient, but what do you expect with a show? So Michonne, she lives, but she is incredibly injured internally. Like, they've established that their insides and their lungs and stuff are burned up from this gas, and they have to take time to heal. You can see Nat there; he is incredibly hurt and wounded, and the lady in the couple, she dies. You can obviously tell that she is suffering significantly after this attack, and we do see Michonne set off afterwards to go and try to find oxygen and stuff, and try to get help basically for them, because they are dying. They're literally dying, and she is the worst off out of all of them. She does tell the one guy that have to be prepared, tie her up to the bed, be prepared that you might have to take her out. She might die. You could see the heartbroken look in his face, and that is also the last time we see him as well. So Michonne heads back. She sees her dead in the bed. She died before she even got back. So Michonne takes care of her, and then she heads into the other room, and her boyfriend is also dead as well. So he is kind of by this counter that it's lit up in fire and flames. She takes out, this new walker, and then she realizes that Nat is literally in this like little circular counter area protecting himself with the fire away from the walkers. So Nat is the only one who manages to live through the chlorine gas thing with Michonne. So they're the only ones that are left after that chlorine attack. And we get a little montage of Michonne and Nat basically, healing and getting prepped. So I don't know how long they spent in this little building of theirs, but I would just take a guess of a few weeks or something. I honestly have no idea how long it would take them to heal, but they're kind of healing like inside, really. They're taking their body to heal a little bit. You can see she's trying to get stronger and stronger, start to breathe more on her own, talk normal again. And we got a little conversation with Nat and her that, okay, Nat doesn't want to go. She tells Nat to go to Alexandria and just let her go find Rick, and she wants to protect Nat. But Nat has also made it very clear that I'm going to stick around, I'm going to help you out, I'm going to help you find Rick, I'm going to see this through. And he's always got this little lighter with him. I don't know what it is. It's like his little signature thing through this episode. He's always flickering around with this lighter, and we do see it at the end of the episode too with Michonne. Her and Nat, they finally get to the area that she's been looking for. That was written down on like the journal logs in the boat that she found with Rick's stuff. And this is also some shots that we've seen in the trailers of her kind of like devastated, and we didn't really know why, but now we do. She gets to this terminal area and she realizes that all the bodies, there's a bunch of like burned up crisp bodies that are in piles. And this is apparently the last place in this last area here that Rick was at, that the boat that Rick was on was at, because his stuff was on the boat and she found the little logs, and this is the last place that boat was at, and there's a bunch of bodies that are burned up and dead. And now she realizes that there is a ton of bodies with no shoes on. So she starts to think that, oh my God, Rick, he's actually dead. He's actually dead, and he's not going to be alive. I'm not going to find him, and maybe I should just head back home, because his boots were off. He had his boots off, and it's looking really grim for Rick Grimes right now to Michonne. And Nat's just trying to tell her that, maybe you just kind of did all you could, and they start to realize that maybe we should head back home. And we cut to that scene the next day is Michonne, Nat, they got a walker pulling their wagon. Kind of creative, actually. Michonne did her thing, took their arms off, the jaw off, I think, and the walker just follows them. I think that's really creative. But that the walker's pulling their wagon, and she's basically trying to radio for Judith. So she's accepted that Rick Grimes has probably died, and she's not going to find him. It has been that damn long, and he probably would have found them by now. That's her assumption going into this, and she decides to head off back home. But here's the thing. If you're watching very closely, you realize the location that we're now in. So this episode, it didn't end. Luckily, it didn't end with the full-blown just, I'm going to end up finding Rick and it's going to cut off again. It didn't do that. They didn't end it with the same exact scene from last episode. But we're now at that scene. So Michonne and Nat, they look up and they realize, holy shit, they're back. The helicopters are back. And the last time they saw one of these helicopters, it shot a bunch of gas at them and almost killed them. And basically killed everyone they were traveling with. So they get ready and they have their weapons with them. And apparently Nat is the one who actually knows how to use these things, at least in this scenario specifically, how to shoot it up and aim it at the actual helicopter. Little over the top, I think, honestly, but it's kind of cool still. Kind of cool to see. But Nat is actually the one that shot down the helicopter, not Michonne. So he aims it at the helicopter as it's flying down and actually getting closer to them, which I don't know if they just thought it was or something, because when we actually saw the scene with Rick, and I don't think they were really going after anyone specific. It didn't seem that way. So they just assumed that maybe it was coming for them. Obviously, we know, I don't think it was. So they shoot down the helicopter, and then we enter the same exact scene that we had at the end of the last episode. Michonne goes around. Nat keeps shooting the blasts at the other people, and she kills basically all the soldiers and then stumbles upon Rick Grimes. And that's where that last scene ended. That's where the episode cut out last week. But continues now. Michonne and Rick, they get their happy happy reunion. And I think it's really well done. I think it's great. The acting, the chemistry between Denai Guerrera, Andrew Lincoln, I think it's just awesome. You could see that they're finally just reunited after all those years being away. Just in real life in general, too, with the show. They haven't really worked together since then. So they're finally working together again in the same show again. Same characters. Their characters are reunited, and I just think it's really cool. So immediately, though, after they get their hugs in and stuff, Rick does ask, is Judith okay? Is she alive? And Michonne reassures Rick that yes, Judith is fine. She is alive. But she does not mention anything about RJ, his son. So I don't know when she'll bring that up. It's teased a little later that she'll probably try to mention it later, but she does not mention that he has a son yet. So as they're reuniting, Rick is very aware of his situation that he is in, and there's obviously other helicopters around the area. And he's like, we need to get prepared. Okay, they are coming. We're not going to get away from them, and you need to listen closely. As that's happening, though, we do get one more shot of Nat, and he's like, holy shit, is this the guy? Is this Rick? And then Nat gets shot. Nat gets shot by a CRM soldier who is still on the ground alive. And, Nat dies. So, it fits with the story, with where they're headed with Michonne and Rick. Like, what were they going to do with Nat? It would have been cool to see him go back to Alexandria, but they killed him off. Nat dies, but he did get to see her reunite with Rick, so that was cool. But Nat dies, and then we're in panic mode. Because this is not just we found each other, everything's all good and happy, let's go home. No, we are in a very dire situation. The helicopter just got shot down, and now all the helicopters are coming in that area, and they're going to find out what the hell's going on. So Rick is very much informing Michonne, listen to me. We need to hurry. You need to use a different name. You need to not show yourself to be any type of a leader at all. You need to not know anything about Alexandria. You cannot mention your real name. You cannot do anything. Pretend that you don't know anything. And just follow along. We're going to be heading back to the CRM, but I will find you. But you need to listen to me right now. You need to follow along and just go with this. So basically, Rick points up his gun at Michonne, and then we get to that scene of Michonne looking up, kind of happy because, like, okay, I found him. I know where he is, but now we're in a new situation. So Rick and Michonne, they need to head back. He can't give away that he knows who this is right now. So they're trying to play it off that this is his love that he's trying to get back to, but he doesn't want them to know that. So basically, Michonne is going to now play it off as if she wasn't really part of the attack, but the people that she was with there, like the one guy with the sword, they gave the sword to Nat. To make it look like, it was them that were attacking and Michonne was the innocent one. She doesn't mention that she uses a sword, anything like that. She's trying to stay undercover to make sure that nobody knows that this is who she actually is. So she uses a fake name, and they're interviewing her there, and Michonne is now stuck within the Civic Republic, just like Rick. But the only positive really here is she knows where he is now. They are in the same place, and they need to try and get out together. So that's kind of cool, I guess. I don't know if it's a good thing, though. I mean, now she's stuck there too, and Rick has been very unable to get back home. So now she is in the same freaking problem that Rick has been in for the last 6 years. So it's kind of crazy. We cut to the next scene, and Michonne is walking around in a very familiar CRM jacket that Rick has been seen in before as well. So now she's kind of been thrown into the whole society here. Immediately we get to see her get, pulled to the side from a CRM soldier, and obviously that is Rick. They get between a few trucks, reunite again, and then they start to begin and talk. Once again, Rick is like, okay, Judith is fine, Judith is okay, she's alive, reestablishing that. Michonne does realize that Rick's hand is gone, and she's like, what the hell happened? What is this? And he realizes this is one of my latest attempts. It happened a little while back, to get back. This is one of my attempts, one of my last attempts. She's like, one of your last attempts? And he's like, yeah. So she's realizing that he kind of gave up trying to come back. And I think it kind of put into perspective the dire situation that she is now in. She's like, holy shit, he stopped trying to get back, and now I'm here. At least that's what I pictured it as. So he does try to reassure Michonne that we are going to get out of here. We are going to get out of here. I'm going to get out of here with you. And we just got to figure that out. And everything's like, okay, they're stuck there, but now they know each other. They know where each other are. They found each other. They got to get out of here. But here's the problem. You may have forgotten. How did Rick get to the Civic Republic to begin with? You remember Anne. Should say Jadis. Yeah, she got him to the CRM. She called them in as the helicopters were flying over around Alexandria, that general area, and that's how Rick was saved after he blew up the bridge. So we cut to a shot of someone recording Michonne during her interview there. They're looking at like the camera as she is being interviewed. So it cuts back a little bit in the past. And we do get a few scenes with Michonne looking at the might of the military for the Civic Republic too. So that is like the final shot of Michonne for the episode. But we do also get to see her flipping the lighter from Nat. So that is like the last shot of Michonne for the episode. But then, yes, Jadis is back, everybody. Jadis has returned once again. And now we know that she's not that friendly anymore. And I think if we wouldn't have seen her in World Beyond, we would have thought, oh, Jadis, cool. You know, that's good. No, it's not good. This is not good. Jadis has, at least right now, she has been established as a Civic Republic villain. She is not on the good side, generally. She's probably going to try to manipulate Rick in certain ways to, you know, try and tell him like, oh, you know, I'm on your side here, but you can't do this and you can't do this. But she is confronting Rick because she knows exactly who Michonne is. So that's a problem for Rick because he never wanted anybody in there to know who Michonne was. You know, it was perfect. But now he's got the Jadis problem. Jadis is aware of who Michonne is, and this is not going to work out well for Rick and Jadis. And now Jadis is his biggest problem right now. And I don't know how it's going to go, but it ends with Jadis basically saying that, like, if you try to escape with Michonne, if you try to get away from her, if you leave with her, I will kill everybody that you know and love. Basically, back at home in Alexandria, I will kill them all. That is what she tells him. We all know already. Jadis is not too friendly anymore. I want to know what happened with Jadis once they got back. I actually want to see those scenes. I don't know if we ever will. But I really want to see what happened in the direct aftermath of her going with Rick. Because there was obviously some sort of change. We know that she was deceptive and stuff, but it just seems so drastically different from, you know, she was starting to trust the whole group and she seemed quite fond of being in the group. And then she went off with Rick and now she's like full-blown villain almost. So it's weird. And I want to see more of that story told from Jadis' perspective. I hope we see it. We have 4 episodes left. Considering how much we got in these last 2 episodes, I think we got a lot still coming, and I hope we do learn that Jadis story, but we do end the episode with the Jadis problem. So Michonne is now there at the Civic Republic with Rick. There is no more finding each other. You know, that story got wrapped up real quick, which I am happy about. Because I was really worried they were going to drag that out through the whole 6 episodes and then they were going to end it with that and it would have been weird. You know, it would have felt like not as grand of a story. It would have felt like the beginning of a story almost. But now it feels like, okay, I don't know what to expect in the last chunk of episodes here because a lot of the trailers are those first 2 episodes. A lot of the trailers are. What's going to happen in the later half and like the later chunk here now of these 4 episodes, I have no idea. But I'm loving the show. I love seeing Michonne and Rick back in the story. And the world just feels grander now than it ever has before with this big... Like, this is a threat that they have never faced before. You'd think Negan and the Saviors were bad. Like, they were bad. But this is another scale of bad. And I have no idea how they're going to deal with it. And I'm curious to see how. I don't know if they can deal with it. They can't even escape from them, let alone deal with them. So we'll see what happens. I don't know, but I'm loving the show, and I can't wait to see next week because this show's got me hooked, man.